You know, sometimes the most beautiful things hold the most incredible secrets. We look at a gemstone and we see, the fire, the color, the brilliance. But locked deep inside is this incredible story that goes back millions of years. A story of fire, of pressure, and a pretty violent journey to the surface. And, as we'll see, sometimes that story has a very modern, deceptive twist.
So today, we're going to be gemological detectives. Yeah, that's right. Our mission is to investigate one of history's most famous gemstones, the Siamese ruby, and expose a really high-tech forgery that tries to mimic nature itself. We're going to follow the clues from the Earth's mantle all the way to a modern laboratory.
Okay, so our investigation has to start at the source, right? The scene of the crime, if you will. We're heading to a really historic and, frankly, volatile region, the border between Thailand and Cambodia. This is the origin of some of the world's most sought-after rubies. For more than a century, this area has been the home of what the market calls Siamese rubies. And these gems, they're legendary, not just for their deep, rich color, but for their dramatic history, a history that's totally tangled up with the shifting map of Southeast Asia. So the story really gets going in the late 1800s. But the real boom happened after the Burmese gem trade collapsed in 1962. Suddenly, the whole world turned its attention right here. Mechanized mining just exploded, supplying the global jewelry industry for decades. Now, while the big operations have mostly quieted down, you still have artisanal miners there, sifting through riverbeds, always hoping to find that flash of deep red. Okay, so how did these rubies even get here in the first place? To really understand their identity, we have to go way back to their violent birth. The geological clues, well, they tell a story of immense heat and pressure, deep, deep within the earth. Now, this term, basalt-related, is actually a little misleading. You'd think it means the rubies grew in the basalt rock, but that's not it at all. They're actually xenocrysts, which is a fantastic word that means foreign crystals. See, they formed much, much deeper in the earth and were then captured by rising magma. They were basically unwilling passengers on a fiery elevator to the surface. And that's why they often look a little rounded and etched, because the magma was literally trying to dissolve them on the trip up. And this just shows you the absolutely incredible journey. They form, they get hijacked by magma, and then they're blasted to the surface through volcanoes. And then, for millions of years, rain and wind just do their slow, steady work of breaking down that volcanic rock, finally freeing the rubies into rivers and soil, where eventually some lucky miner finds them. It's an amazing process. All right, so we've got the geology down. Now it's time to zoom in, way in. We're going to dust for prints by going inside the ruby itself. Using some really powerful microscopes, we can find these unique fingerprints, the telltale inclusions that just scream a gem's origin. I'm telling you, the inside of one of these rubies is like a hidden universe. It's filled with these tiny little mineral crystals and fluid pockets that got trapped as the ruby grew, millions of years before it was ever touched by that magma. These are the clues to its real identity. So one of the first things we'll spot are these beautiful, smooth, rounded crystals of a mineral called diopside. Under the microscope, they look like tiny little planets just suspended inside the ruby's red cosmos. They're solid proof of the gem's formation conditions. And then we see these incredible patterns called fluid fingerprints. They're basically healed fractures filled with microscopic droplets of liquid that create these swirling, delicate designs. Gemologists call them atoll-like for a reason. They look just like tropical islands seen from way up high. Just beautiful. And finally, this is a key piece of evidence. These sharp, intersecting lines known as polysynthetic twinning. This is part of the ruby's basic crystal structure, kind of like its internal scaffolding. When you see this specific pattern, it is a very, very strong indicator that you're looking at a ruby from the Thai-Cambodian border. Okay, visual fingerprints are great, but for proof that you just can't argue with, we need to go even deeper, all the way to the gem's DNA, its chemical composition. Using advanced lab equipment, we can read the unique atomic recipe of a ruby and confirm its identity beyond any doubt. The key chemical difference really boils down to one element: iron. The geology of the Thai-Cambodian region creates rubies with a much higher iron content compared to their famous cousins from Burma. This iron is what gives them that characteristic deeper, slightly purplish red color, and it also dampens their glow under UV light. It's a huge chemical clue. But we can get even more specific. Scientists can analyze these tiny trace elements that exist in parts per million. For instance, rubies from this border region have a consistently low ratio of gallium to magnesium. This creates a really distinct chemical signature that easily separates them from other high iron rubies like the ones from Madagascar.
So there you have it, right? Case closed. We've looked at the geology, the microscopic fingerprints, the chemical DNA. The evidence is pretty overwhelming. But our story has a modern twist. What happens when someone tries to tamper with that evidence at an atomic level? And here is the deception. Gemologists started seeing stones that looked right, but something just felt off. Well, it turns out these were composites. Someone took a low-quality natural sapphire, used it as a seed, and then artificially grew a thin layer of synthetic ruby right over the top of it in a lab. It's a disguise at the molecular level. When we look deep inside the stone, down into its core, we can still see the fingerprints of a natural gem. You've got these intersecting needles of a mineral called rutile and those beautiful naturally healed fractures we saw before. These are the last little ghosts of its true ancient origin. But that outer layer tells a totally different story. The inclusions here aren't elegant or natural. They're a mess. They look chaotic and have this cracked appearance. These are the dead giveaways of a rapid, artificial growth process in a lab crucible, what we call flux growth. It is the clear mark of a forgery. But the final, irrefutable proof, the absolute smoking gun that blows the whole case wide open, is an element that should never, ever be there. And here's how we know. Check this out. The chemical analysis is it's undeniable. While the natural core has iron in it, that synthetic outer layer is completely missing it. And in its place, traces of platinum. That's contamination from the crucible, the high-tech lab equipment used to grow the artificial layer. It's an atomic fingerprint left right at the scene of the crime. The perfect forgery, completely solved by chemistry. So in the end, a gem's true identity can't be found in just one single test. No way. It's revealed by putting all the evidence together. The geology tells the origin story. The microscope reads its life experiences, and the chemistry confirms its fundamental identity. And together, these tools can uncover the truth, exposing even the most advanced attempts to fool us. And all of this leaves us with one final kind of provocative thought. This really sophisticated forgery, it completely blurs the line between what is natural and what is artificial. It kind of forces us to ask, in a world with more and more amazing technology, how do we even define what is real, what is beautiful, and ultimately, what is valuable? It's something to think about.